It's gonna be a nice change. What is this, George Ziggy? Don't ask much, just sign it in. Yeah, I thought we were going, I thought we were starting.
All set, Mike? All set? Okay. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Bristol Town Council meeting of May 11th. If we could all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everyone. Welcome. Good evening. Madam Clerk.
Mr. Chairman and members of the council, the first item of business is the consent agenda.
Motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Motion made by Tim, seconded by Tony to approve. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
The next item on the agenda is the submission of minutes. These are the submission of minutes from the April 18th, April 20th, and May 2nd, 2022 council meetings.
Motion to approve the previous minutes as stated.
Second.
Motion made by Tim, seconded by Tony to approve. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
The next item on the agenda is public hearing. This is Edward Turnbull for Custom Catering, Inc., doing business as 195 Franklin Street. This is a request for transfer of the Class BV liquor license to David Farabend for the Franklin LLC with an expansion of the licensed premises. This is new ownership.
So as the clerk pointed out, this is a public hearing. Before I open the public hearing, I'm just going to make a couple of points of clarity. I know that the request in front of this council was a liquor license, or is a liquor license transfer, also with expansion to the premises. And I know you're going to probably respond to that.
We will.
Excellent. So I'm going to open the public hearing. Is there anyone here to speak in favor? My goodness, you're very quickly. Please state your name
Yes, thank you.
and address for the record.
Yes, my name is Richard Daddario. I have a law office at 1 Courthouse Square in Newport, and I am pleased to be here tonight representing David Farabend and John McDowell, who are standing behind me. They live in Tiverton now. They're in the process of purchasing the real estate at 195 Franklin Street, and they're excited about the prospect of expanding their existing business, which is located in Tiverton, to Bristol as well. So by way of background, my clients purchased the old Provender Cafe at the Tiverton Four Corners in late 2020, and they've been operating a very successful cafe slash restaurant at that location since that time. So the restoration of that building and the business that it has sparked a real revival in the Four Corners area. I don't know if any of you have been down there, but as you can see from what they've given you to look at tonight, just for conceptual ideas, that's the kind of work that they do. They are planners and designers with a long background in that field. Whatever they do at 195 Franklin will be first class. So they have also in Tiverton purchased the 2 adjacent properties to the Provender, which one of them is a garden and gift shop, and the other is a kitchen store, and they're both impeccably done. They have outdoor seating for people to enjoy themselves. At 195 Franklin, they're looking tonight just to have the license transferred over to them. They have an LLC called the Franklin LLC. That is the sole member of that LLC is David Farabend, who's behind me. The real estate will be owned by both of them under a different LLC name. So in all, the Groundswell employs quite a few people in Tiverton. One of the reasons they want to expand to Bristol is because they need more baking space. They have 7 pastry chefs. They're putting out a lot of product in Tiverton at the Groundswell Cafe of a high quality, and they wish to move that over here. They will have a small cafe, espresso, things of that sort. They will also have food later on in the day, along with the liquor license. They'll have charcuterie, tapas, things of that sort. It'll be a nice cafe. So having said that, the other thing is they plan on operating, at least to start out, and it's going to take them a while to renovate the building, but they plan on operating from 7 a.m. to approximately 11 p.m. if it's appropriate, depending on the traffic and volume of customers that they have. I think they probably will employ anywhere from 15 to 20 people in all as they operate this new venture. So we're excited to be here. Appreciate the council's attention to this and also the help that they've received so far from the town employees in getting this started.
Excellent. Is there questions from this council? It is a public hearing, but if there was any clarity necessary.
I don't have questions. I just want to say, I love Groundswell. I love it there. And I was just talking to somebody else that was thinking about opening in business. And I said, have you been to Groundswell? That'd be great to have one like that
Yeah.
in Bristol. So.
Yeah.
Good luck to you.
So we're looking forward to it. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good evening, Town Council. I'm David Fierben, and as Richard gave us a great introduction, this is John McDowell. We are very pleased to be part of the Bristol community, or looking forward to it. As Richard had suggested, we are expanding quite rapidly in Tiverton, an unexpected business and surprise, and we have about 50 employees at that location. We'd expected probably about 6 we budgeted for initially. So we've been open 14 months now. And if any of you have been there, I hope you've had a good experience. We are planning to bring that experience here. We want to have an espresso bar. We'll be baking pastries fresh every morning out of the space. So we'll probably open from about 7 to noon, close down, and then reopen in the evenings for a supper menu and cocktails. We don't want late hours. We're very respectful of the neighborhood. We understand architecture, and we just, we've been very sensitive to how everything has been in Tiverton, and we look forward to kind of carrying that over to here with the same sensitivity. So,
Excellent. Thanks. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Is there anyone else to speak in favor? Or is there anyone else to speak in favor? Is there anyone else to speak in favor? Is there anyone to speak against? Is there anyone to speak against? Is there anyone to speak against? Hearing none.
Motion to close the public hearing?
Second.
Motion made by Tim, seconded by Tony to close the public hearing. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. So, Mr. Solicitor, just for a point of clarity, as already shared by the petitioner's attorney, they're looking for the liquor license transfer, but not the expansion at this point. But we would need some clarity in regards to what our next steps were. What should this motion include? So there's no prejudice, I guess, is where I'm going.
Yes, I think that if you're so inclined to grant the license, it would be just to grant it as is on the existing space with and deny the request for the expansion as without prejudice, as you're indicating, so that they can come back after they go to zoning, and if they are successful there, they can come back, or it's possible they might be not even need zoning, but they can explore those avenues and come back at that future time.
So we'll take that up when we get to that agenda item, Madam Clerk. Thank you, Mr. Solicitor.
Mr. Chairman and members of the council, the next item on the agenda is C1. This is ordinance 2022-4. This is chapter 11 for the fees and charges for the beach pass. And this is second reading for adoption.
I make a motion that we adopt it.
Second?
Motion made by Tony, seconded by Tim to adopt. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
The next item on the agenda is C2. This is ordinance 2022-5, chapter 25 for streets and sidewalks. And this is for the seasonal outdoor seating on State Street. This is first reading.
Motion to approve first reading?
Motion made by Tim, seconded by Mary. This constitutes first reading. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
The next item on the agenda is C3. This is ordinance 2022-6, Chapter 16 of the Motor Vehicles and Traffic. And this is parking prohibited at all times, and to add a no parking box on Cook Street, first reading.
Motion to approve first reading.
Second.
Motion made by Tim, seconded by Tony to approve first readings. Or any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Mr. Chairman and members of the council, the next item on the agenda is D1. This is David Farabend for the Franklin LLC, 195 Franklin Street. This is the request for the transfer of the Class BV liquor license.
Mr.
You
Chairman,
sit
members of
down,
the
you stand
council.
up, you sit down. you
Yes.
sit
The
up again.
expansion.
Well, I wanted to make my clients available for any questions. We are not looking to expand to outdoor yet because we have some issues that we have to address, of course. But if the council or anyone has any questions with respect to any of the requests that are before us.
So I just have a comment. We do not usually, and we did not in this instance also, make any comments as a council on whether we're for or against it. Now I can tell you I'm for it. I think it's outstanding. I think I'm very concerned about 7 pastry chefs in one place at one time and what that means for baselines. But it's been a previous or the current owner has done an outstanding job. And I don't think we told them that. So we're telling them that now. And it sounds, if it's anything like what you've done in Tiverton, my family loves Grays. I know you don't own Grays, but exactly. But it's an outstanding, I mean, it looks wonderful over there. And if you bring a piece of that or all of it or more to Franklin Street, then everyone will benefit. So I don't know if you're getting a feel where I'm coming from or not. Colleagues?
I'll sprinkle some more sugar on the chairman's comments. I'd just like to say, I mean, you have a lot of choices in cities and towns to go to. And I think it's great that you picked Bristol and you won't be sorry. It's a fantastic community and I think you're going to do very well here. And looking at your design is very impressive. It's a nice change. So, welcome. With that, I'll make a motion to approve the transfer of the Class BV liquor license. But we will be denying the expansion without prejudice. On the,
Motion made by Tim, seconded by Tony to approve the transfer, deny the expansion without prejudice. Is there any other discussion?
Mr. Chairman, just point of clarification, the hours of operation, you're looking from 7 to 11, am I correct? Okay. Okay, thank you.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Congratulations.
Mr. Chairman, the next item on the agenda is D2. This is David Farabend from the Franklin LLC, and this is the request for the vitrilling license.
Based on all the positive recommendations, make a motion to approve.
Second,
Motion made by Tim, seconded by Tony to approve. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
The next item on the agenda is D3. This is David Farabend from the Franklin LLC, 195 State Street. This is a request for the dancing and entertainment license.
Based on all the positive recommendations, make a motion to approve.
second,
There's a motion made by Tim, seconded by Tony to approve. You come to town and you take over our meeting. Is there any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Good luck.
Would you
Yeah.
gentlemen
Thank
like
you.
these back? Would you like these back? You sure?
All right.
Yeah. No, I'm
Super.
just saying because.
Thank you.
Thank you. Best of luck.
Yeah.
Yes.
Mr. Chairman and members of the council, the next item on the agenda is D4. This is Stephen Bazin of the Japan American Society of Rhode Island. This is a request for one-day dancing and entertainment license for the Black Ship Festival on June 11th.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion made by Tony, seconded by Mary to approve. Discussion. I shook my head because it's already here again. It's
I know.
absolutely good. Is someone from the Japan American Society? Excellent. I didn't even see you. I apologize.
I just wanted to say thank you for the recommendations that are positive, and we're hopeful that you'll give us approval. Thank you.
Thank you.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And can you just state your name and address for the
Yes.
record, please? Sorry.
Steve Avison. It's 41 Constitution Street here in
Thank you.
Bristol.
Thank you.
So we
There's
had
a lot of
motion and a second.
enthusiasm across the state for coming to Bristol once again with the festival.
Excellent.
Super.
Thanks, Steve.
Would you
Thank you.
like an opportunity for a 30-second commercial on the on the event that's coming up. So
The Black Chips Festival will be here that weekend with a free taiko drum concert on Friday night in Rockwell Park, and then an all-day festival on Saturday. With your approval, to carry forward something that's been going on for many years in Rhode Island, but proudly in Bristol for the last 4 years.
outstanding.
Super.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Good luck.
Thanks, Steve.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Take care.
Mr. Chairman and members of the council, the next item on the agenda is D5. This is David Hennon from the East Bay Comics, 437 Hope Street. This is a request for holiday sales license.
Based on the positive recommendations, make a motion to approve.
Second.
There's a motion made by Tim, seconded by Tony to approve. Is David here?
Yes.
Yes.
Hey, David.
Could you state your name and address for the record?
David Hennon, 3 Canario Drive in Warren.
Excellent. I know that you shared some information in the past, but here's your 20-second commercial this time.
Well, we've been in Warren for about 3 years as a retail business and looking very much forward to moving into Bristol. We have a wonderful spot here down on Hope Street, and we're not quite built out yet, but we'll get there real soon.
Outstanding.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Any other discussion from the council? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
And best of luck and welcome.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you for saying that, Tony.
Mr. Chairman and members of the council, the next item on the agenda is D6. This is Alan Bernstein for the Bristol State House. This is the request for one-day dancing and entertainment license for the Community String Project. The event dates are May 20th, 2022 and June 3rd, 2022.
We are inaugurating an artist series from the Community String Project as kind of an offshoot of what we do. We're going to feature local and national artists at our space in the Bristol State House, and we'd like to be able to serve beer and wine as well as individual performances. And we promise to be good.
Could you state your name and address? for the
I'm
record,
sorry,
please?
Alan Bernstein, 7 Andrew Street, Newport, Rhode Island.
Thank you. What's this council's pleasure?
Based on all
motion.
the positive recommendation, make a motion to approve.
Thank you, Tim.
I'll second that. And just the recommendations of the police department, the detail. I understand you're going to need some detail. Am I correct, chief? That there would be a need for that since they're going to be serving alcohol?
I
Okay,
normally will send them that with the license, so they'll have all that information with them.
super.
Mhm.
Thank you.
All right, so we have a motion and a second to approve. Is there any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman and members of the council, the next item on the agenda is D7. This is Rosa Paiva for the United Brotherhood of the Holy Ghost and Trinity. This is a request for the one-day dancing and entertainment license for the church feast from June 10th through June 12th.
Make a recommendation to approve it and also to follow the recommendations from the police department.
Motion made by Tony to approve, seconded by Mary. Is there any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
The next item on the agenda is D8, and this is Juan de Medeiros of St. Elizabeth's Church. The request for a one-day dancing and entertainment license for the Santo Cristo Feast from June 17th through June 19th.
Make a motion that we approve it. Again, oops. Again, to follow the recommendations of the police department, especially the noise ordinance.
Motion made by Tony, second. I heard it. I just wanted to give you an
Yeah, I was gonna
opportunity.
say, I heard it.
Motion made by Tony, seconded by Mary to approve, following all recommendations. Is there any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Mr. Chairman and members of the council, the next item on the agenda is D9, and this is Michelle Martins for the Bristol 4th of July Committee. This is a request for a one-day dancing and entertainment license for the Cultural Night event on June 3rd, 2022.
Based on the positive recommendations, make a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion made by Tim, seconded by Tony to approve. Is there any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Mr. Chairman and members of the council, the next item on the agenda is F1. This is Michelle Martins for the Bristol 4th of July Committee. This is a request for permission to use and sell alcoholic beverages at the Maritime Center to hold a cultural night on June 3rd.
Based on all the positive recommendations, make a motion to approve.
Second, and just like to highlight a couple things on her request. One is that they're going to be celebrating, the theme will be highlighting Bristol's Italian culture. You know, how can we miss that? Okay. And the other piece is the Two Gals Cocktail charges a minimum for staff and donates all proceeds to the committee, the 4th of July committee. So certainly is appreciated that they do that. Good, very nice gesture.
Good addition. So we had a motion made by Tim, seconded by Tony to approve. Is there any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Mr. Chairman and members of the council, the next item on the agenda is F2. This is Daniel Manchester for the Bristol Historical and Preservation Society. This is a request for the use of the town common for the annual flea and fair event to be held on August 13, 2022.
Based on all the positive recommendations, make a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion made by Tim, seconded by Tony to approve. Is there any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
The next item on the agenda is F3. This is Mary Kay Wright for the Arts in Common. This is a request to close the portion of High and Wally Street for the annual Porch Fest music event to be held on September 18th. There is a typo. The rain date is actually September 25th. It's noted as the 23rd, but it's the 25th.
Based on all the positive recommendations, make a motion to approve.
Motion made by Tim, seconded by Mary to approve. Is there any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Any opposed? Thank you.
And the next item on the agenda is F4, and this is Town Clerk Zero. This is a request for removal of the accessible parking space on 42 Mount Hope Avenue. This is second reading.
Make a motion that we approve it. Certainly is appreciated that folks inform us and we acquire an additional parking spot.
Second.
Motion made by Tony, seconded by Tim to approve the second reading for adoption. Is there any other discussion? I'll echo Tony's comments that we appreciate and will always honor these requests and talk about adding those. And we also appreciate when it's brought to our attention when it's no longer needed. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. You need a seatbelt to keep up with how quickly we are going this evening. My goodness. Madam Clerk. Yeah.
Mr. Chairman and members of the council, the next item on the agenda is I1. This is Superintendent Anna Riley
F5.
with a presentation of the Bristol Warren Regional School District Strategic Plan.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Good evening. Thank you, Chris. I was just going to ask you. Put that up there. So thank you for allowing me this time before the council to share our draft strategic plan for the years 22 through 27. I say draft because this is now posted on our website for public comment. It will be open for public comment until May 25th. We are still looking for feedback from our families, students, staff, and the community on any improvements that can be made or anything that may be missing from the plan. And so that will continue to be open until the end of May. And then in June, we will bring the final draft to the school committee. Chris, if you go to the next slide, please. Thank you. So all districts in the state are required to follow the same framework so that the state can create a repository of strategic plans so we can share best practices and look across districts to look at what other folks may be doing and things that we may borrow or work that we can collaborate on. So you'll see this framework is really at the district level, beginning with the mission, what is our long-term district aspiration, followed by the theory of action, and then priority setting. The last two stages, the initiatives and the action steps, are at the school level. So once we decide what the goals are and what the priorities are, then the staff and the school work together as school communities to determine what those actions look like at the school level. Next slide, please. One more. So when I came to the district, they had already started embarking on this process, and they had some really robust charter commissions working on the 5 areas you see outlined here. That is a live link. If you go to our website, you'll be able to click on the bottom and see the members serving on our charter committees. There are over 70 members on the charter committees that help to put this document together. And I'm just going to share that this is an overview of the strategic plan, and there are actually hundreds of pages of research that were done by these charter groups in order to prepare this. Those stakeholders, charter committee members represent all of our stakeholders: students, central office staff, parents, community members, school committee members, our administrative team, and teachers and support staff. So we really tried to get input from everyone who's engaged in schools to make sure that this was a thorough process that really addressed all of our priorities. When that process was complete, these were the key priorities that were identified: climate and culture, teaching and learning, professional learning, career and technical education, and communication. You can see that the charters, before they began their work, started with a SWOT analysis of what was happening in the district, what were our strengths, what were our weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. They looked at quantitative data and qualitative data as they develop those key areas of focus. As I mentioned, this is an overview, but there's a lot of work and research tied to this that the charters invested in. What you see here is just some highlights of the strengths. So we always want to start from a place of strength and build upon and improve from there. So in terms of culture and climate, what the charters identified was that we really had some dedicated therapeutic staff and support staff that help to build those connections to community resources. We also have quite a few social emotional initiatives in the district, and our administrators were highlighted as being extremely supportive of improving in that area. In terms of teaching and learning, the strength that was identified was really our dedicated teaching staff and support staff. Our high school assessment development, we have a validation cycle, and there's quite a bit of pride in the schools, and particularly during the last few years, we have gained quite a bit of access and use of technology across the district. In professional development, again, meaningful longitudinal plans and really committed employees, again, highlighting that our staff is really one of our overarching strengths. The charters also identified the need to create more CTE or career and technical education pathways for our students. We have about 75% of our students that go on to college, but that means we have about 25% of students who go on to the workforce or career of some sort. And so we really want to build out some pathways to help students be ready for those high wage, high need industries when they leave high school. And then finally, you'll see this communication as both one of our strengths and one of our weaknesses. So that dichotomy is really the difference between what happens at the school level versus what happens at the individual student level and at the district level. So one of the strengths is that they felt that their individual school where their student was really did a good job of communicating things like events and opportunities that might be happening in the school, but not really that one-to-one communication on how their own child was doing or really how the district as a whole was doing. So really more focused on events and pushing out information versus communicating things that we were working on. Slide. It's just our mission statement. I wanted to highlight it for you. This has been the ongoing mission statement of the Bristol Warren Regional School District for many years, as far back as I could find anyway. We're deep into the 80s. That's about as far as I could go with our information on the mission statement. But you can see it's certainly one worth fighting for. Theory of action. This is one of the requirements of the state framework, and it really is setting up what we need to do that will lead us to success. So you see on the left, those are the things that we have identified as priorities, and we believe after the work of the charters that if we follow through on really supporting and shoring up these priorities, then we really will be able to enable each and every student to succeed in college, career, and life. I won't read you everything on this slide. I'll just highlight kind of what each portion of the slide means and then let you dig into it a little deeper on your own. So what you see highlighted with the number is the priority. So this first priority is attached to climate and culture. And so that priority is to really engage families and community partners in creating safe, inclusive, vibrant, and adaptive learning environments that supports all students in realizing their full potential as productive and successful members of our community. What you'll see in the gray on all of the slides were some objectives that were set out by the charters in each one of these priorities. So again, I'll leave these for you to review, but you can see that each of the objectives will help guide us to that priority. And then finally, on every slide, the last piece that you will see is how we're going to measure progress. And progress will be measured over multiple points in time. So we're not just going to start now and wait to measure at the end of 5 years. Some of these measures are annual, some of them are biannual, and some are beginning of the year, middle of the year, end of the year, depending on what kind of data we're talking about. So I'll read you these. For example, in this first priority, one of the places where we really get good quantitative data about our qualitative measures is using the SurveyWorks data that the state puts out. So RIDE, the Rhode Island Department of Education, has been putting out this SurveyWorks survey to parents for over 20 years. It goes to parents, students, and staff, and it asks just about 100 questions that tie to all portions of things that go on in school, how students feel about their teachers, their academics, their school, if they feel safe. So a varied set of questions for students, and then a different but comparable set for parents that ask them how they feel about school, the safety of school, how engaged they are in school, how they feel the school is supporting their child, what kind of information they get. And then from staff, how they feel the leadership supports their work, how they feel they support students. So really a robust level of questions that allows us to call out some data to help us measure how we're doing in this area of climate and culture. And so we pulled out this, there's the school climate section in the SurveyWorks, and we pulled it out for the district for this presentation, so you can see what it looks like overall. So 59% of our families and students who responded to the survey feel favorably about the district. Now that number might vary by school, and each school can see its own individual data. They can see what their student numbers are, parent numbers are, and staff numbers. And so we'll ask each school to set a goal for improvement, and then we'll have an overall arching goal for the district on what we want that number to be at the end of year 1, 2, and then finally what our goal is for year 5. So as the schools work on their school improvement plans, we'll be working to set up what our end goals are for the strategic plan. So right now, all you see is our baseline on here, but we will be filling in those gaps with where we are today and where we hope to be at the end of 5 years, and we'll keep measure on that from year to year. Obviously, another measure of climate and culture is how well our students are doing. That's just not measuring learning, but also measures how we feel about our school. So the higher and the better proficiency rates we have, the better kids and parents feel about our schools. So you see our proficiency rates here for SAT and for the RICAS. We have just received our raw data for SAT, so I don't have the new numbers yet, but we will in about another month. So we'll get an update on this with the new SAT numbers. And then RICAS data will not come out until October, so we won't have updated numbers on that. These aren't the best of numbers, but I'll tell you our raw data for SAT already looks much better than this. We're going to keep working at that, but we will set some goals. Again, out for 5 years, but incremental goals over each year to get to that final goal. So this is the basic format for the next 5, and I'll quickly go through the next 5, but please stop me if you have any questions as we go along the way. So the second priority, which is teaching and learning, again, in that top block, if we strengthen the students' pre-K to 12 roadmap to college and careers through high quality core curriculum and robust multi-tiered systems of support within each school, we will improve those teaching and learning outcomes for our students. The objectives they set out here in that gray box was really ensuring we have that high quality curriculum, that 75% of all students meet the higher or exceed proficiency measures on state and local assessments. I'm going to just put out there that I think that 75% is low, but it's our federal requirement under the Every Student Succeeds Act that we get at least 75% of our students to proficiency. I certainly would like that number to be much higher, but we used what the federal goal was in this marker and what the state goal is. That we're going to continue to strengthen our our system of academic and behavioral support. So just a quick little definition of what we mean when we say, I'm sorry, there is a lot of edu-speak in here, so feel free to ask any questions, but what it means when we say multi-tiered systems of support. What that does is bring together interventions for students on both the social emotional and academics. We partner those two together to make each student as successful as they can be. And there are tiers to that. So tier 1 is just classroom support, what the teacher does every day with her students in her classroom. If you need tier 2 support, that means you get a little extra help. You might have some push and support from a reading interventionist or someone else who comes in to do some extra support in the classroom. And if you're tier 3, that means you need an extra dose of whatever it is that you need help on. And so we're going to provide some extra attention to students that are in that third tiered level. And whatever that tier may be, it could be on the social emotional support. They might need some time with some of our mental health support counselors, or it could be on the academic side and they just need more teacher time in addition to the regular classroom time. So students will be evaluated in every subject all the time. We're constantly looking at this data in 6 to 8 week cycles to move students in and out of those intervention cycles to give them the support they need. So just a small definition of what that multi-tiered systems of support is. That is something that we're just really streamlining across the district. It's happening in pockets in each of our schools, but a lot of our work next year is really going to be on creating a strong framework that's consistent and common across all of our schools, K to 12, so that it's clear to students and parents when we're working within the systems of intervention and where we're doing and how we're moving them from intervention 2 or 3 back to where they belong, getting everything they need at the first level, tier 1. So that's an ongoing process and one that we're working on quite a bit for next year, which is why it's one of our objectives. That'll be an overarching goal for the next few years. And then really to enhance our student roadmap to college and careers, that school readiness piece. The state requires all students from grades 6 to 12 to have an ILP, an individual learning plan, that really helps students map out what their school career is going to look like from 6 to 12. There are secondary regs that are up for, they're out for public comment. I think they're going to the council in the next month for a vote, which will really change some of the graduation requirements for the state. One of the changes is requiring 2 years of a language. That's already a graduation requirement in Bristol Warren, but it's a new requirement of the state. Every student who graduates high school, starting with the class of 2025, I think it was 24, I think they pushed it out to 25, will have to have some kind of internship, practicum, or service learning opportunity before they graduate. So we can't wait till students are getting ready to graduate to see if they met all these requirements. And so this ILP, or this individual learning plan, allows a student to map that out. So as they're wrapping up their middle school years and getting ready for high school, really laying out when they can get these things accomplished with the course of study that they want to take at the high school. Some of them can actually be done at the middle school level, and they can do in 8th grade before they get to the high school. So there'll be some opportunities for that. And this individual learning plan will help us make sure that students have that proper roadmap, so no one gets to their junior, senior year wondering how they're going to squeeze everything in. We really want to make sure that we have a good plan for that. And then you'll see what our measures look like. I mean, obviously, one of the easy measures of a high quality curriculum is, have we bought it? Do we have it? Does it exist? Is it in all of our schools? This year, we just purchased that high quality curriculum in English language arts for our schools K to 8. The district already owned a K to 8 high quality math curriculum and has for about 5 or 6 years. It needs a little revamp. It needs a little uplift with some professional learning and support so that we can really make sure that that's happening consistently across the state, the high schools across the school district. And then at the high school level, this year they're piloting some high quality curriculum in English that we'll be purchasing at the end of this year. So they'll have that on board for next year. Same with math. So we can almost check that box as we get to the mid of the first year. So we're excited about that one. Let's see, priority 3. Priority 3 is on professional learning, which of course is about making sure that we provide our staff with relevant and purposeful structured professional learning, one that supports the work that they do every day and also helps them maintain the knowledge they need to put these new programs in place. You can't just give teachers a bunch of new books and say, hey, figure it out. Here you go. Here's this new series. So we'll be rolling out an implementation plan for the new English and literacy books that we purchased. And then again, some revamping and adding back some more math professional learning. There was a lot of professional learning 5 years ago when we first bought the series, but we've had new staff come on board over the last 5 years and we haven't done a good job of really keeping up that professional learning. So that's something we want to add some more of for next year. And one of the recommendations of the charter committee was to develop a district professional learning committee to have teachers and administrators work together with central office to really plan that professional learning a year in advance. So we know what we're working on, what we need to do, and where we can put our funds and budget towards supporting teachers' improvement. How will we measure progress? Again, a district steering committee. We will also, SurveyWorks also measures how teachers feel about professional learning, which is right now, it's only at 34%. So we have lots of room to grow. It just means that our teachers don't feel like what we're providing is really what they need. And so that's definitely an area where we feel like we have a good road to improvement. And then we always do evaluations before and after professional learning to make sure that what we did provide was something that teachers felt was beneficial to them. So that's something else that we'll be putting in place for next year during our professional learning. All right, priority 4, which is our career and technical education offerings. So these CTE programs have to be approved by the state. Once they're approved by the state, then we get some reimbursement from the federal government in Perkins dollars to help support these programs and to grow these programs. We currently have 2 approved programs that have been approved for a few years here in Bristol Warren, and we have 3 in the pathway to be approved. So our goal is to continue to measure student interest, look at engagement and opportunities for jobs that are high quality and high wage in our area where we can grow pathways that help students be ready for those jobs. So that's some of the future work. We have a CTE advisory board, which is working towards this goal. It's made up of some of our staff at the high school, but also some community members, business owners who are helping to shepherd our programs and to support us. Every CTE program requires an industry partner. And so as we look for these opportunities, we need partners from our community to join us and be on our advisory board to support this work. Every district has to do a comprehensive local needs assessment, which just measures what are the needs in the community, particularly around employment. And again, we look to those high wage, high need opportunities so that our students are ready. So we'll continue to do that. And then students who earn those accreditations, whether it be for the workplace, and all of these pathways give students the option of earning either college credit in that pathway or a workplace credential. And the goal is that students graduate with either one or both of those when they complete the CTE program. And that is measured by the Department of Ed in terms of a diploma plus seal. So we can track how many of our kids not only partake in the program, but are successful at the completion of that program and actually earn those credentials at the end. Because we don't want to just have kids go through the motions over their 4 years at the high school and not leave with the credential for the work they've done. So that's really one of our goals, is to improve our outcomes. So we've got students in the pathways, but they're not always earning those credentials at the end. And that's an area where we can definitely make some improvement. So that's a place that we want to grow in. And then finally, our last priority, communications. Again, we want to communicate timely and intentionally with students, families, and staff to create and deepen an intentional, inclusive, and transparent culture. That's always a priority of mine. I always feel like there is never enough communication. So far, our biggest communication event has been around the budget that some of you got to take part in. And I hope you saw just a small window into how I like to work. I like for everyone to be included, for the process to be transparent, and for folks to be able to have the opportunity to ask a lot of questions and be a part of the process. I've tried to mirror that with this strategic plan, which is why we're out for public comment. I don't think it's enough for just the small group of 70 folks who did this all together to be the last voices. We want to make sure that now we share what we built and what we put together so we can get input from the community. Again, we can measure this with SurveyWorks. There's family engagement and how the school engagement seems, but also really doing some surveys and using, we have a lot, we have a new website, we have an app, but we haven't really measured using the analytics that are available to us on what that usage looks like. So, yep, I can see how many people get my emails. What I can't see is how many people read those emails. So how much time do folks spend on the email, on the app? Are they really reading the information? How can we do a better job of pushing out information to parents, not just saying, well, it's on our website, go find it. You know, so we really need to get better at how we get information out to families and make sure that we use our communication tools wisely, because sometimes when you get 100 emails from school, you might not read them all. But if we know that weekly communications come out in an email, emergency communications come in a phone call or a text, and really being more intentional about how we use our communication so parents know, I really better pay attention to this. We don't usually get a text. We don't usually get this. So what's happening? Or why are we getting an email, a text, and a phone call? We really want to make sure that we highlight things that are of importance to our families. And then the last slide are the questions that you'll see are on our Google form for our surveys. So what things do you see in our plan that are particularly exciting or strongly resonate with you? Do you feel there's an area of focus missing from the plan? And then do you have any proposed questions on the plan? We have a running FAQ on our website. We're trying to answer questions as people put them into the survey. So if you've done the survey and haven't gotten your questions answered, we'll get to them. We are trying to get to all of those, but the goal is to be able to respond to any questions. So then if folks want to go back and add feedback, they can do that. So we welcome anyone from the community to, again, this is on our website, to click the link to give us your feedback. And then we will use all the trend data from the feedback to make any adjustments if necessary. And we'll be bringing the final draft of the strategic plan to the school committee in June. There's a lot of talking. Questions. I'm happy to try to answer them for you.
Mary.
Good job with the part, but one of the things, I don't think this format is totally different than what it's been in the past, correct?
The format for the strategic plan?
Yeah.
It is, because what you'll find is this is a more concise version of a strategic plan. Strategic plans are, I think, in our previous strategic plan included, had like 100 and something priorities. So if you have 100 and something priorities, then are those things really your priorities? So that's why this is really tried to narrow in scope so we can focus on the things that we feel are the most important.
So what, a general comment about, I think very impressed that you had like so many people involved with this. And I think that number one, that you started off with parent engagement, and involved with some other, like this in a different way.
Mhm.
And what I really found lacking was the commitment to parent engagement. Like it's not really set. So I think when you go back to slide 1, and it's a summary, you know, how is it going to be really meaningful? It's not just getting that to come to a parent teacher conference, not just getting this, but how is it going to be really meaningful for them? The other thing that I'm saying, this is just my observation in general, not particularly to your point, but there's so much work going on in terms of the tiered support and just other, you know, after school programs, before school programs, you know, COVID, you name it, there's a whole bunch of stuff out there. And I don't see that, like, it all goes to like maybe culture, it goes to like helping them with grades and feeling good about school, etc. But I don't really see that acknowledged in these plans sometimes, or even as a way to like, what is the role that everybody plays in that? And it could be because it's a summary, but I was, you know, like, saw a presentation not long ago, and I felt those things were really in another place. I felt like that stuff is really lacking when it comes down to going through, like, you were explaining to the school committee, to us, or whatever. Like, here's what you've done so far this year that touches on all of those. You can do it. You shouldn't come up at the end and go like, well, what about parent engagement? Because we've talked about that for such a long time. Or all the money we put in for social emotional supports. Years actually, is not really here. You just hoping it's going to happen in the numbers and the outcomes, but I don't really see the support of that. And I kind of feel a little bit about that with the presentation you did, recognizing this as something.
So absolutely.
It's just my thoughts.
No, and I'll share with you that that's part of being targeted with family engagement, that right now parents feel like they get a lot of communications from school, but it's about events. It's about what's happening. It's about, things that might be coming in the future, maybe a parent teacher conference even, but the communications aren't about their child in a meaningful way. And that's something that we want to work to improve so that you get that contact on a more regular basis from the school about how your child is doing in terms of social emotional, in terms of those tiers of support, because those are both academic and social emotional. The whole piece on culture has a whole component of social emotional support and how we're measuring that. We have dedicated quite a bit of funds in our both in our regular budget to improving those supports, but also with our final set of ESSER dollars for FY23 and FY24 to really increase the number of mental health staff we have. We've been also partnering with a group called Unite Us that allows us to connect parents and families to different support services. Again, lots of room to grow and lots of work to do, but thank you for pointing those things out. I agree that family engagement piece is crucial in a meaningful way, and that's the piece that we have to work on. As I said, our number looks good, like most parents feel favorably about it, but they're getting that kind of cursory, superficial information. How do we make sure they get that deep down, important information about their own child? That's the piece we need to improve on for sure. And be our partners. Absolutely. Part of the engagement is pulling parents into our schools too and making sure that they feel like they're included in what's happening, because we can't do it alone. We both need to do it together for sure. You're welcome.
Well, thanks for the presentation today. I have a few questions for you.
Of course.
One of them is about the mission statement. You said that the mission statement hadn't been looked at since what about the 1980s or something
Yep.
like that. And so I was wondering if there's going to be any efforts maybe in the future as part of your logic model or your strategic planning framework to revise that mission statement based upon your experience implementing the strategic plan.
Sure. So as I mentioned, I came into the strategic planning process after it had already been kicked off. The mission is part of the requirement from RIDE, which is why I had to kind of find it and dig it up. In a new revival of a strategic plan in 2027, I would recommend that the committee look at that mission statement and feel like if it does mirror, and it may still very well mirror the value and what we're looking for, like, is this what we want our ultimate goal to be? What's here is laudable, and I wouldn't presume to say we should change this. It's not good, but I do think it's something that we should look at when we kick off our next strategic plan. I just don't think they considered it as part of the components of their overview, but now that it's in the state framework, I would think that that is something that we would bring forward for the next time around for sure.
All right, thanks. I know it might seem a little bit late in the game for it right now, and that's why I think it would be a great idea maybe in the future,
Yep.
2 to 3 years, to take another look at that. Another question that I had was on the CTE programs.
Mhm.
You guys had talked a little bit about measuring whether students are getting the credentials.
Correct.
Are you measuring at all, or are there any plans in the future to measure whether or not those students that have credentials are actually entering into careers and getting good paying jobs?
So we actually use a program called Naviance at the high schools where students use those to connect to college applications. And that allows us to track them when they leave us and go to college, if they go to a Rhode Island institute. So I can see whether or not kids go on to Rhode Island College, URI or CCRI, and whether they complete programs there. It does have a way to continue to communicate with students if they provide us with an email for themselves after they graduate. And that's the only way to try to track if students are still in the industry. Sometimes they might not go to URI or CCRI or RIC. We have no way of knowing if they've completed their college program wherever they go, unless they stay connected to us so that we can reach out and survey them with those questions. But right now, we don't have a way to really measure that.
Yeah, I know what a lot of programs will do is they'll say 6 months after they receive the credential, are they in some sort of career or have they received some sort of job?
Correct.
Because I agree, it's great that some of these students are going maybe into a technical school afterwards, or they're going to URI, or they're going somewhere else where they've already gotten a jump start on the college process. But what about those students who are opting not to go down that road? Are they entering the careers that our CTE programs are purporting, or are we being truthful in our advertising about the
Right.
CTE programs?
Right.
So,
And we only know that anecdotally right now. We definitely have to get better at measuring that. And again, it's maintaining that connection to students when they graduate.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Tim?
Yeah, super. I think it's a great presentation. I love the strategic plan, the keys of the objectives and the measures. I was just curious on this roadmap, you've got them all in priority. Are there set milestones in regards to when you hit those milestones, you'll do a revisit and see if it's actually working? I know you probably said it, I just didn't hear it, but I just want to know if there's those checks in there to make sure you're actually accomplishing what you're set out to accomplish.
Absolutely. So each school will set out what their goals are at the end of 27, and then really we'll break those out over the next 4 years at what their goals are for each year. And then we'll measure those annually. We actually look at the proficiency numbers. So the numbers that predict for us whether students will be successful on either the SAT or the RICAS with our own internal assessments. And so we measure those middle of the year and end of the year so we can track where we are on this progress. And if we need to make any course changes in between, to adjust what we're doing to make sure kids are meeting those proficiency marks. So for example, we have some money set aside next year in our Title I grant. So students who at mid-year are approaching proficiency but might not quite be there, where we can offer some after school time sessions so students can ramp up before the end of the year. So there are things that we build in to make sure that we hit those end of the year goals, but certainly when we get midway through this strategic plan, we will look at where all of our goals are and whether what we've decided we would be at the end is attainable. And if it is, what are we going to make sure we do between that mid-cycle goal and the end cycle goal to get there? And sometimes that means better investment in staffing in that area. It might be looking at what we're doing in terms of measuring. Do we need a better measure of what we're doing? Or it might be that we haven't done enough in whatever that area is to get us to where we need to be. And we might have to rethink what some of these objectives were and shift objectives to get us to that final goal. So we do have to continue to evaluate. We'll just be using the measurable goals year 1 and year 2. When we get midway through that year 3, we need to evaluate the overall set of objectives and make sure that the objectives we've selected are getting us to where we need to go.
Right.
And if there's an area where we're not, then we might want to think of some different objectives to get us to that end goal.
Right. Right. And you, do you survey out the graduating students? Do you do anything where
I don't know that.
just grab and just say, hey, listen,
question.
you're graduating. What
Yeah.
did we do really well? What did we really fail at? And I mean, we wish you well, but
Yeah.
at the same time, we want feedback where we can improve.
Yeah, I don't know if we do that at Bristol Warren's office.
Oh, no problem. And then finally, I think the strategic plan will be very successful if it's wrapped into a capital projects plan. And I think we all know
I
that
didn't even ask you to say that, but yes.
I don't want to go down a whole nother road, but I just maybe you could just state whether it's like also, in lieu, there's some sort of connection there.
Absolutely. So
right, thank you.
we are actually bringing to the school committee on Monday a recommendation for the architectural firm, which will lead us through stage 1 of the RIDE school building authority process. They will do a full facilities assessment of all of our school operations. They will look at our strategic plan and what our outgoing goals are and look at what we have in terms of facilities and how those things are aligned. And it's more than just construction and looking at the buildings. One of the components that's required of the architect is that they have an educational planner. And so we actually interviewed 2 of the bidders on our RFP, and we met with both the architect's team and with the educational planner so we could talk about what some of our goals were. Because CTE is such a high priority for us, that is a topic that we wanted to make sure was going to be addressed in our stage 1 application. We currently have 52 freshmen signed up to start our construction pathway.
Oh, excellent.
You've been in our buildings. We don't exactly have the best facilities for that kind of work. And especially when we have so many students who are interested, if we're going to do a good capital planning project, we want to make sure that we have a high school who will be able to address the needs of our students and what they
Right.
want to be a part of. So that would certainly be a component that we would expect the architects and the educational planners to include in the planning for us, is that the CTE pathways that we have outlined and that our students are really interested in, we have a facility that allows us to be successful in that area.
I think that's fantastic. But I think also if you could just make sure that the sustainability of those buildings are so important. I think with the environmental concerns that we have out there, like, are we looking into solar on the roofs? Are we diving into what, the sustainability buildings? I think
Again, I know
it's
you're
also a
not a
moment,
plant.
it's also a moment for teaching
This is
as
going to
well.
sound like
So-
that I planted these questions for you, but there are right now on the legislative state to be approved, hopefully, moving into the next session, a new construction bond for more money for construction, but part of that are increased incentives. And so currently the district, because we're a regional district, we're eligible for 82% reimbursement. There are incentives. One of them is a green incentive. So what are you doing so that your buildings are sustainable, using alternative forms of energy, and you can get up to a 5% addition to that reimbursement. There are almost 20% more points we can get in terms of reimbursement for our project if we were to meet all of the incentives.
Okay.
Obviously, not everybody can meet all of the incentives, but one of them is a green incentive. How do we make sure that what we're building is sustainable and environmentally friendly? And you can get extra reimbursement if your projects meet that threshold. So 82% is our baseline. I would anticipate that much of the work that we want to do would certainly bring us above that, which would make this really a once in a lifetime opportunity for our district to be able to really improve our facilities and receive that type of reimbursement from the state. It would really be phenomenal.
Yeah. Thank you.
You're welcome. And that will be the goal, to have that stage 1 completed is September 13th. So we do have a building committee that incorporates folks from both Bristol and Warren town planners, the town administrators, and a group of folks that will help shepherd that process. So when that's ready, I'll bring that back to you too.
Looking forward to it. Thanks.
Thank you.
Excuse me, had you called me, I could have provided you the mission statement pretty quick.
All right.
I do recall this one very much and working
But
on
can you
it.
say it without looking at it?
Well, into the 80s, 90s, I don't think so. Many other things have happened since then, and I still can't remember. As to Tim's point, surveying the seniors and the exiting process, not so much in the academics, but I recall us doing that, just to find out what do you plan to do, what are your plans and so forth, to capture that, to your
That's
point.
in Naviance. We'll get that information, but how they
Right.
felt about school is a different question. Those are some good qualitative questions we can ask.
It helps,
Yeah.
to do the exiting survey. Yeah,
Sure.
definitely.
Thank you.
Thank you for the presentation.
Sure.
Yeah, so lastly, I would say outstanding presentation. I've been on the council for coming up on 10 years, and this is the first time the school has come and shared these thoughts of any kind, to be quite honest. So hats off to you and to the school committee. Thank you. Second is that I love, on a high level, I love the focus on focus, meaning that you're talking about goals, outstanding, but you're also talking about verifying those goals. And more specifically, I love the micro end, which is you're not waiting till it's too late to make adjustments. You're checking periodically, or at least that's what the plan does say that you're going to do. I think it's outstanding. I also love the transparent and intentional. I really do. I love those words. Again, I've been here for 10 years. The last thing that was in front of us was at a joint finance committee, and it was 5 and 5. First, what does that mean? Second, how are you going to get there? Did we get there? I don't need you to answer those questions. I can answer them. We didn't. But you'll never get to a place if you're not trying to focus on it, set a set of goals, and try to get there. So I know that my colleagues and I support the focus here. Our school system is so valuable in any community, but particularly ours, in my opinion. I think there's so much to be gained by not only for the students, but the town itself. If we have students coming out, and I thought interesting, the baseline climate at 59% favorable. I got to tell you, in my world, outside of the council, alarm bells would be going off. What the heck are we doing wrong? That was the last point I wanted to make. I appreciate the honesty. You did not say, look at all the great things that we're doing. You did, but you also said, these are the things that we need to improve. And you will never improve on something unless you call those out. So hats off to you again and the school committee for doing that. So it's outstanding. So, and this is the first step, obviously, right? I'm interested to, at our typically we talk at joint finance committee meetings, right? Hopefully it's more than that. But I'm interested in seeing the progress as joint finance committees come along and seeing how these things are being implemented and also the success that you find. So,
That's the return on investment I promised you for next year.
is there any other questions or comments on the council? And how about you, Ms. Superintendent?
Thank you.
No?
Thank you.
Okay, all right. Can we have a motion to receive and file?
So moved.
Second.
Is there any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Thank you again.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman and members of the council, the next item on the agenda is I2, and this is public notice from CRMC in regards to Wagdy and Nagua, a 50 Viking Drive in Bristol, and this is requires response before May 25th, 2022.
Based on the positive recommendation, what do we, motion to accept?
Second.
Is it remind me, just
Receive and
receive and
file.
file?
Receive and
Oh,
file.
sorry, yeah.
Not all. So
Strike.
Tim's- You said receive and file, didn't you? That's what I heard.
I did, yes.
Is there a second?
Second.
The motion made by Tim, seconded by Tony to receive and file. Is there any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed? Thank you.
Mr. Chairman and members of the council, the next item on the agenda is I3, and this is the Town of Bristol borrowing resolution.
Julie,
Yes, hello.
could you give this council and the public just a brief overview on this?
Yes,
Thank you.
so this is a borrowing resolution for up to 8.12 million for the sewer department. We talked about a very large solids handling project during budget time. It's included in the debt service that we have budgeted for already. So most of this is that large solids handling project. We also have some collection system work and some treatment facility upgrades. So this borrowing is planned to go through the Rhode Island Infrastructure Bank. They have, in our rising rate environment, it gets to be a better deal going with them. We get a 3% off of the market interest. They've lowered their fee structure a little bit, so it looks appealing to go with them. And so we're working closely with them right now.
So if the council agrees, the motion is to,
Adopt the borrowing resolution as
council?
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by Tim, seconded by Tony to adopt the borrowing resolution as presented. Is there any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Thank you, Julie.
And the next item on the agenda is I4. This is the Town of Bristol reimbursement resolution for the town council for the 10-yard drainage phase 3 and the wastewater treatment facility electrical improvements.
Julie, I feel like I'm going to ask you a question again. You want to just speak on this one real quick? Too,
Yep,
please?
so this, unlike a borrowing resolution, is the reimbursement resolution. What that allows us to do is to spend town funds ahead of borrowing for a project. I don't anticipate being ready to borrow for, back up a little bit. These projects are, it's up to 3.5 million, and this will cover the last of Tanyard. We're also using ARPA funds for that project. That is estimated right now at about 4.3 million, and that will finish the Tanyard Brook project. So
Julie, I
that's
want to
great.
stop right there just for a
Mhm.
moment. And I just, it's worth pointing this out, that 10 years ago, right? It's approximately, no, it was longer than that. So it's before I was on these conversations started. And we're talking about, we're almost done with 10-yard Brook. That
I
is just
know.
absolutely
Yes.
tremendous. So
And I don't have the number offhand, but a
tremendous.
very significant portion of that was covered by grants. So
Yes, and
that's
that's,
been,
and that's hats off to so many people. The efforts, that's worth taking a moment and saying that taxes are never low enough for anybody. That being said, the reason why they're controlled as much is that we have so many people that work for this town who go out of their way to get grants. In fact, we're going to have a conversation about one really soon too, about grants that we get that help us pay. Julie just pointed out one, $4.3 million. We've gotten grants for $7 million for 10-yard Brook. Talks about how expensive these are. So hats off. It is so tremendous that we're able to leverage these dollars along with taxpayer dollars to make these things affordable and doable now. And again, it's because of being shovel ready, and there's so much effort put into that. So it's worth pointing that out. Please continue.
Yes. The other project that's included in this reimbursement resolution is to complete electrical system upgrades that are currently being done at the sewer department that are not eligible for the infrastructure bank funding. So we're in process with that. It looks like probably about 400,000 to finish that up. It's a big job there. So this would allow us to, again, to spend our funds ahead of the borrowing. I anticipate borrowing ready to borrow maybe at this time next year or a little bit earlier. And that is just to protect the tax rate and not have to see big increases.
Perfect. Council?
We to
Just
adopt it?
a motion for
To approve.
reimbursement resolution to
Adopt.
support the reimbursement. Adopt, thank you.
Well, so move.
Motion made by Tony, second by Mary to adopt the reimbursement resolution. Is there any other discussion?
Just very briefly, you said this goes before, especially Tanya Brook, before you were on the council. This actually goes, it's about over 35-year discussion. So
So I
it's
was off.
glad-
Okay.
So I'm so glad that we stayed on the course, and stayed on the course, and we actually be able to accomplish this. So this is a great step. Certainly will help with all the residents that are adjacent to the Tanya Brook, that for many years they've had to pump their basements time after time. So they certainly will be able to sleep in peace and find a swimming pool in their basement.
We'll put- Is there any other discussion?
And for all
Hearing
the,
none, all in favor?
aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, members of the council, the next item on the agenda is I5. This is Police Chief Lynch in regard to the automated license plate readers.
So this is on the agenda for council and public hearing. This will just be, I shouldn't say just, this is an important comment from the chief, but it'll be received and filed. Chief?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and distinguished members of the council. Tonight, as I've asked the
Chief,
town-
could you move the mic a little closer? You're tough to hear.
I've asked the town clerk to provide you with documentation on Bristol Police Department General Order 300-25, which is our policy and procedure, which outlines exactly the procedure on how the Bristol Police Department will roll out flock safety technology in the town of Bristol. But before I get into an introduction about that, I would like to point out to the council, Melissa Goldstein is here from East Bay Community Action, EdCap, and John and Linda Patton, who are here and are part of their son, the Matthew Patton Foundation. And I'd like to, they're here tonight to also speak to the council about the benefits of this particular program, and I'd like to acknowledge that their son Matthew had died 9 years ago from suicide and was a member of our armed forces. So thank you for his dedication and service to our country, and our apologies.
Welcome to both of you, and we all are sorry for your loss.
And I'd be remiss if I didn't tell you my partner on this, on the Bristol Police Department, Lieutenant Stephen St. Pierre, who has reached out to both of these foundations and will be here to kind of fill in if there's any data. He's also worked with Roger Williams University to provide data on calls of service that the Bristol Police Department and Portsmouth has had to the Mount Hope Bridge as it directly relates to self-harm and suicide, and the times that the Bristol Police have gone out there. We have data for probably going back almost a decade on calls of service and some numbers. And I'll just give you a couple of briefs, and certainly the lieutenant, it's his data that in the 9 years that he's been collecting data out to the bridge calls, we've responded about 1,271 calls of service to the bridge. Specifically, we've had 205 of those calls related directly to suicide. And we know we have data on that at least 17 people have taken the unfortunate task of jumping over the bridge in an attempt to commit suicide. So that's some of the raw data that we're dealing with. And of those calls of service that the Bristol Police Department had over there, over 25% of those were BOLOs. And in the police acronym, a BOLO is be on the lookout for. So a family member may contact the police that somebody is distraught and that they have contemplated suicide, and they immediately call their local police department or the state police, or it could be here in town. And they may say that their loved one is driving their personal vehicle or another vehicle. And at that point in time, the police department can register that license plate in the NCIC system as a BOLO. And the same thing goes for, when we have our senior or a loved one who has dementia or some type of inability, gets behind the wheel of a car, gets lost out there, same type of situation. We can load that registration plate into the NCIC system. And the same thing would go tragically if someone child snatching statute pertains to Amber Alerts. So anytime that someone was to abduct a child and somebody had that registration plate of that person that abducted that child, that also can be loaded into the NCIC system. So those are the three areas that I'm focused on. I want to let you know that they also will track somebody that has committed a bank robbery, that's operating a stolen car, or a major crime where that license plate has been entered into the NCIC database. So that is the database that we routinely utilize on the police force to check to see if a person is wanted or if there's a arrest warrant out for someone. But in this particular instance, one thing that I want to let everybody know, and the reason why I thought it was important to put it on the council docket, is this cannot be converted to monitor speed enforcement. If someone, I hope no one does, but if someone drove by a flock camera 100 miles an hour, there's nothing that's going to register at the Bristol Police Department ever. It does not have the capability of doing that. So what we have adopted is a policy and a procedure where flock cameras would be installed, 2 on the Bristol side of the bridge, and 2 additional cameras would go on the Portsmouth side of the bridge. I met last week with Chief Peters, and this is obviously the first step is to get the funding. We've got the folks here tonight that are providing the funding for a 1-year pilot program. And the cameras would then, as someone passes by them, would only hone in on the registration plate. It is seconds. I understand it could be as quick as 10 to 21 seconds that information goes through a data bank to the NCIC system. And if it is a plate that has been located as a BOLO for a missing person, a suicidal person, silver alert, amber alert, or a crime, it will immediately notify our dispatch center. So there are certain protocols that we have in place for what the police dispatcher has to do to verify that information, to verify the description on the plate, and alert an officer to respond to that area. So the good thing would be is if the flock camera picked up someone that went through the Portsmouth, it would tell us that the person is heading into Bristol, because the first hit would be on the Portsmouth camera. The second hit would be on the Bristol camera, vice versa. It would also alert the Portsmouth that the vehicle was traveling towards into the town of Portsmouth. 4 communities in the state are currently operating with the flock system, and several others are in the research mode. And all of them have reported very positive net benefits to reducing, crime in their communities. Currently, Cranston, Woonsocket, Tiverton, and Gloucester have the cameras in. Providence, Pawtucket, Warwick are all in the same research in researching the technology and working to implement this program into their community. So I'm here tonight to tell you what it does do and what it doesn't do. And I'll read a brief from the flock safety boilerplate thing. Flock safety is a public safety operating system for cities that helps communities and law enforcement in 1,200 plus communities work together to eliminate crime, protect privacy, and mitigate bias. We build devices that detect objective evidence and use machine learning to decode and deliver unbiased investigative leads to law enforcement. Some of the things that have been raised and concerns that have been raised in other communities is how long is this data going to be stored? We're going to have thousands of cars that pass through this that are never going to register that they have anything to do or being entered into the NCIC system. So what is the Bristol Police Department going to do with that data? After 30 days, this information is self-purged. We will not be able to obtain it afterwards. It is gone. It is completely gone, and there's no permanent record that the Bristol Police Department will maintain. The company itself doesn't have the information. Only the Bristol Police Department will have the information about the people or the cars, not the people, the cars that have passed through the camera system. And in your packet, I included a letter that went to the Cranston Town City Council. They're a city, they're not a town. And I wanted to let the council know that in crafting this policy and procedure for the Bristol Police Department, I took every one of the concerns that the ACLU had, and I reassured that those concerns were properly addressed in the Bristol Police Department policy. One, many of the other, we will be the only community that will tell our residents in the general population where the cameras are, where they're located. And if we move the cameras, what their previous location was, what their current location is. My goal is to certainly reduce crime in the town of Bristol. But my primary focus for doing this is to prevent suicides at the Mount Hope Bridge, to hopefully alert the Bristol Police Department if a senior is out on a silver alert, or if someone has abducted a child and there is a Amber Alert that is issued. As I've stated routinely to this council, I gauge my success in this town by the absence of crime. The fact that people feel safe in the town of Bristol, the fact that we are the safest community in 2021 in all of Rhode Island. I take great pride in that. This is not a tool to enhance our ability to go out and arrest people. This is a tool that I want to implement along with several other technology pieces that we brought in to make Bristol a safer place. And if I'm fortunate in preventing one of these statistics that have happened out on the Mount Hope Bridge, then I've implemented a tool that will bring somebody home and hopefully prevent a life and to get somebody the treatment and the help that they need. As you could see, when the Bridge and Turnpike Authority was here, I followed up the very next day with the executive director on when that technology that they're calling for out on the bridge is going to be implemented, because none of these are going to solve the problem, but all of these are tools that we can implement that will help the problem that exists with suicide and self-harm. And I'm hoping to apply every technology and tool that I know available to the residents here in the town and also to people coming in, residents that are frequenting our community. So if there are any questions that you have, I'm here to answer them, but you do have the policy, you have the procedure, the information from Flock. This is a one-year pilot. And between EdCap and the Matthew Patton Foundation, there will be no cost to the Bristol taxpayers to get this one-year pilot up off the ground. And we will gauge its success, after 1 year and certainly put together a comprehensive review.
Council?
Certainly like to thank ECAP and the family of Pat, the Patton family as well, for stepping up and taking the initiative to help us, set up the program. Thank you.
Mary?
So first of all, I had a conversation with the chief this afternoon, lengthy conversation. So I appreciate your time. I've never been a huge fan of cameras, especially if they're money grabbing cameras. If this is a tool, let's see how it works. But I would appreciate it if you could. So I did look at this, and as I mentioned to you, the ACLU letter, summed up a lot of my concerns. And could you just point out where in this policy, I didn't realize that had addressed all of this. So where are the details for another chief? I mean, I think one of the problems we run into sometimes with in government is we trust the person that's coming forward with this, but 5 years down the road when somebody else is here, or 10 years, anything could change and happen. So I know you said you addressed it all in here.
So the concerns, from the ACLU was what is going to happen to the data that you acquire, and it goes up into the cloud. And as I stated, that there's automatic purging of that information after 30 days.
So I'm talking about this specifically about, excuse me, what happens with a new chief?
Yes. If you go to page 3. Approval mandatory for ALPR funding acquisition or use. And you go to bullet number 4. I put down any expansion of the technology associated with ALPRs or additional scope of use as currently depicted in this policy. And if you look at section A, a municipal law enforcement agency shall provide a presentation to the town council following an advertised public hearing of the council prior to engaging in any of the following. So one of the concerns was from the ACLU was what happens if the technology, it evolves every day? What happens if it improves? If it can do facial recognition was one of the concerns by the ACLU. What happens if it can identify people or record individuals? And I wanted to be certain about what it is. It will never look, as far as I am here, it will never record who the driver is. It does not take a picture of the car. It takes a picture of the license plate. And then it takes that data, that raw data, and runs it through the NCIC system. So the concern that was presented in East Providence and in Cranston was what happens if the technology can expand, because we're told that they have the ability to do that. I can tell you that it's here in a policy and a procedure for myself or a future chief to come to put it on a docket, for the public to be notified, and for the council to be made aware of it in concert with the town administrator. So I thought that that was an important piece to include because it was such a concern. And the biggest concern that they had was, where are the cameras going to be located? Why is it such a secret, for people on there? And I can tell you, I'm the only chief that is going to disclose the location I'm aware of. And I'm also, I can tell you, I think I'm the first chief to implement that for suicide prevention, for, looking out for specifically for amber civil alerts and, to address a situation of suicides. Just like we were the first police department to become a safe station in the state of Rhode Island, where a person that's having, whether it's an emotional problem or if they're having a substance abuse issue, they can come to the Bristol Police Department 365 days a year, 24/7, and we will provide treatment for them. And we will get them the assistance, that they need during the off hours. And that's something that's already proven beneficial to this town. I don't want to, we promise not to disclose private information, but that program has provided individuals in need of mental health or substance abuse after hours care. We are not the caregivers, but we have a safe place for them to come in, and we have, resources that we contact to get them the help that they need. And this is just another tool to do that.
Thank you, Chief. And I think I was kind of looking at some of those guardrail questions that you had too, Mary. And what I saw that made me feel pretty good about this was in section A, in the definitions, where it says, for the purposes of this policy, automated license plate reader does not refer to those electronic devices mounted on a law enforcement vehicle or positioned in a fixed location that is capable of recording data on or taking a photograph of the license plate of a vehicle solely for the purpose of recording the speed on a vehicle, recording information for tolling purposes. That was another thing that you left out, that it goes above and beyond what you actually said, or recording traffic patterns and assessing traffic violations at an intersection. So,
I think that we have a piece of technology that certainly has been controversial in other communities. And, we have found a way to address those areas and, find a funding source for a one-year pilot and to implement, a public safety tool. I can tell you that in short time, as your police chief, I have given out awards and citations to officers that have rescued people that were contemplating suicide, to include, issuing a challenge coin to Patrick Little, who was on his way into Channel 12 to work as a reporter, who saw a young lady, 17 years old, on the top of that bridge and stopped his car, and fortunately was able to provide the care that she needed, and certainly saved the life that very early morning. So it's it's a real concern to all of us on the Bristol Police Department, and I'm sure, to the Patton family and to EBCAP. And we have found a tool. There are a lot of tools that are needed, and this is just one of those cogs on a wheel that we feel as though that has the potential to provide some benefits.
Chief, can I ask another quick question? I don't think it's articulated in the policy where they're going to be, but it was articulated in the letter that was written by
Yes.
Lieutenant St. Pierre. It said Woodlawn and Medicom, but it also said Woodlawn and.
Yeah, I think it's ferry. So it's the opposite side. So it would be the
Okay.
two access points, on getting there. We're also looking at Griswold. So one of the concerns I spoke to the vice chair person Perella today was about, we'll look between Griswold in that location. I want to find a location to mount them where it doesn't impact a residential homeowner looking out their window and staring at them. So we will find a location in that area that does not obstruct, a residential homeowner's view.
Well, definitely one suicide on that bridge is too many loss, and we're very deeply sorry for your loss, and we send our condolences. Chief, I want to know, have we looked into the prior suicides on Mount Hope Bridge to give us a understanding of what would be the best location? And number two, I was wondering if it's not, you talked about vehicles mostly, and I understand that. What about bikers and motorcycles and other ways to, how does the camera work in those situations? And somebody is just walking.
Yeah. Like I stated, it does not do any facial recognition. It does not tape human beings. It only has the ability to record that license plate. So that technology will not assist us on a bike or a walker. And but one of the things that the Bridge and Turnpike Authority is working on is technology that would pick up on someone that's walking. As you notice, when you go on, no pedestrian,
Yep.
They don't want any foot traffic on the bridge. And I can tell you a thank you to the motorist. It seems as though that when someone is out under the bridge and they're walking, and it seems as though that the people of Bristol, Portsmouth that travel that bridge are conditioned. They know that look, they know that area of concern, and we have been very fortunate that motorists have called the Bristol Police or the Portsmouth in quick time and allowed us to get out there. But the technology that the Bridge and Turnpike Authority is looking at would pick up on that walker.
Okay.
It would send off an alarm. And also what it would do is it'd give an automated message. Help is on the way. Please wait. Help is on the way.
Awesome.
So it tries to talk to that person because there's a lag time by the time the call goes to police dispatch and an officer gets dispatched out there. So they are working on, I understand that there's supply chain issues from my conversation with the director and getting that technology out there. I do believe that the infrastructure for internet, the provider, the service that would go out there has been strung along the bridge. So that it's there. We're waiting for the hardware.
The hardware. Okay.
Just one quick question. What is your timeline for getting these up and working?
Well, first, you have to have a good policy and a procedure, and to get the community notified about what it does do and what it does not do. Certainly, the funding is here. Lieutenant St. Pierre has worked on that. So we anticipate that funding will be done before July 1 because this EBCAP has certain budgets and timelines on when the money is going to expire. So I would envision that payment would be made to those particular companies. And it is a small turnaround time, probably 30 to 90 days prior to, getting that implemented. So the next step is Chief Peters is going to do a presentation to the Portsmouth Council. I've shared all of this communication with him. I met him for lunch in town last week. And the hope is that he gets his policy in his protocols done in very short order. So he'll be getting a phone call from me tomorrow. And so I hope to get it all done, all of the legwork done by July 1. And the only thing pending is the installation.
Anyone else? So I'll end in saying, Chief, I think it's a good idea. I see a lot of value in this. I understand and agree with some of the apprehension too. Things tend to, I guess we could say, grow legs, but your policy is very clear to say that it addresses that.
Mhm.
And it will come back in front of this council and the public to have more dialogue about it. I believe the strengths significantly outweigh the concerns. And I'm going to go on record and say, Chief, I trust you. I trust the men and women of the Bristol Police Department. I have for a very long time. And I know that the motivations are the correct motivations. Never doubted that.
Yeah.
So, and that's important to have on the record. And I know I speak for all of us.
I appreciate that vote of confidence on that. And I do respect to the Bristol residents. I do respect their privacy concerns. And that's why I took a lot of time in looking at the concerns of the ACLU and adopting them in our policy and our procedure.
We just need a motion to receive and file.
Yeah, we're looking forward to the results in a year. Motion to receive and file. Thank you.
Second.
Got a motion made by Tim, seconded by Tony to receive and file. Is there any other dialogue or discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lieutenant.
And thank you to all of you.
Thank you,
Thank
yeah,
you for
yeah.
saying that.
Chairman and members of the council, the next item on the agenda is I6. This is Town Administrator Contente in regards to authorization to order engine 4.
Mr. Administrator.
Thank you. The fire chief couldn't be with us tonight, but on his behalf, I'd like to request authorization to go ahead and order the replacement engine 4. It's a 2001 pumper, and typically we try to get 25 years out of an engine, and in this case, it'll take approximately 24 months to get the engine in. So we'd like to order it now. And then the current engine 4, which is a 2001, would be our reserve piece, which currently our reserve engine 5 is approaching 30 years old. So it would now would be the time to order the new truck.
Outstanding. Council.
I move that we approve the purchase of the apparatus.
Motion made by Tony, seconded by Mary to approve the authorization to order engine 4. Is there any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, the next item on the agenda is I7 for the executive session.
We'll take that up at the end of the meeting. Thank you.
The next item on the agenda is J1. This is RFP 981. This is the sewer collection system rehabilitation for 2022. Today's bid opening was today at noon. There were 2 bids received. The first bid that we received was from National Water Main Cleaning Company in the amount of $273,805. And the second bid that we received was from Instituform Technologies LLC in the amount of $279,738.50.
I make a motion, we refer to the town administrator to act in the best interest of the town.
Motion made by Tony, seconded by Mary to refer to the administrators. Any other discussion?
Just wondering, could just somebody just explain this one to me? I
asked
apologize.
this Don't apologize. I actually asked the administrator a bit earlier today when we were discussing a few things. And
So this is one of the pilot zones required is part of our license to operate our wastewater facility. And it's a section of the downtown area. I don't exactly have the map with me, but it's the southern portion of the downtown area. And it would be to line the existing pipes to prolong their life rather than exhuming the pipes and replacing them. It's a sleeve that we put through the collection system. So this will be another way for us to prevent also what we call I&I, inflow and infiltration, which is groundwater, rainwater going into the sewer system. We have to treat it and then we push it out into the harbor. So it's a way to secure our system and make it a little bit more watertight from the inside out.
Yeah, literally.
Do I have that
yeah.
right, from the inside or outside? Inside out, inside out.
Right, you're right. Inside out. Yeah, gotcha. So it's definitely securing from the inside out. It's just sort of a sleeve that kind of goes in and probably protects from drainage and any cracks or anything like that. And so it's yeah.
I believe we actually did this process from Hope Street, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, the next item on the agenda is K1. This is Alan Klepper from the Barrington Director, Bristol County Water Authority. This is the monthly report from April 29, 2022.
Motion to receive and file.
Second.
Motion made by Tim, seconded by Tony to receive and file. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Mr. Solicitor.
May I request that we have an executive session pursuant to Rhode Island General Laws 42-46-5, sub A, sub 5. This is regarding the lease or sale of real property, in particular, the lease to Gladding Shops LLC for 205 and 211 Thames Street.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by Tim, seconded by Tony to go into executive session as expressed by the solicitor. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. This also will end the regular meeting, at least on TV. We'll go into executive session when completed, and we'll come out at the end of executive session. So we say good night if you're watching TV. Thank you.